Jon Feliciano. 1 year, we got the contract details, 2.5 million fully guaranteed, or 2.25 million fully guaranteed. Indication to me he's going to be on the 53-man roster. What did you think about the signing? And do you think it's a hedge on Spencer Burford?
Absolutely. I mean, look, Spencer Burford, he played as a rookie. He was young. It was admirable, but he wasn't particularly good, and he wasn't a full-time player. He had to rotate with Brunskill. And I mean, Brunskill graded out higher than he did on PFF, whatever take that for what it's worth. So you can't just assume that Spencer Burford's going to take the next step. And the Niners don't like to do that with players. I mean, they didn't assume that Ambry Thomas was going to take the next step. You have to prove it. You got to come back and prove it again. And now he's got competition. He sees it, right? Like, you got to beat out Jon Feliciano, who has been a starter for 4 seasons in a row. And I'm sure they'd love Burford to beat him out, but there's no guarantee. They're not handing him the job. And I think the Niners are trying to be careful about not creating a sense of entitlement for any player. You got to beat someone out.
I love that.
Yeah. I like that too. But I think ideally Feliciano is the backup center, right? The backup everything on the offensive line.
I think this is a hedge not only on Burford, but also potentially on Brendel and more importantly, Nick Zakelj. You've got these inflection points right now. Nick Zakelj is a guy who the 49ers publicly said they want him to play center. Right. They drafted him for that position. And right now, you don't know what he is. He's a 6th round pick who, in all reality, looked weak last year. He was not strong. He couldn't anchor. And so that's something that I look for him to improve, because I think he can be a solid center if he can, bulk up a little bit. And so to me, Nick Zakelj is a guy who I view as a guy this offseason. Can he really beat out Jake Brendel, or can he at least show some more promise? And Feliciano, you now provide competition in the backups for Nick Zakelj. I think that that's important. But Feliciano for Burford, I mean, you've got a starting caliber guard. You want a guy to be a starting caliber guard or a starting caliber tackle. And so to me, I think it's definitely interesting. I like the competition, though.
East Bay Chris says, they're drafting D-line as early as they possibly can. We know this about this regime. It's true. It's so true. We spent all this time talking about how they can improve their offensive line, and the Niners are in the back being like, who cares? Let's take another D-line. They took Drake Jackson last year, but I don't really see him as an edge rusher. I see him as an interior rusher.
Really?
To me. I do. I mean, he's 6'2 and a half, 273. Like, to me, he's always, like, even go back to college, he has success either lining up as a D tackle or shooting an inside gap or stunting to the inside.
I can see what you mean in terms of he's one of those flexible guys.
He's like a Menahue. He's a Menahue, in my opinion.
He's got to be stronger. I think Menahue's a little stronger. He's got to be stronger. So if he can bulk, I think you can definitely have that inside-outside versatility with him. Yeah.
But they need a Hassan Reddick type, a guy who's just super duper fast, like Burford was.
Yeah.
That guy's not on the team. They should get him in the draft. They could get that guy with one of their comp picks.
And one thing I do want to say, real quick, shying away from the defensive tackle topic, we'll get to that in a minute.
Sure.
On Feliciano, I want to ask you a question. Do you think this move could potentially mean the 49ers try out Spencer Burford at right tackle?
I don't. It crossed my mind, but the way I look at it is, if Spencer Burford struggled at right guard last year and needed to be in a rotation, the next move isn't, move him up to right tackle. The next move is, he's got to stay in that rotation until he improves and proves that he doesn't need that anymore. He still needs the training wheels. So Jon Feliciano is the training wheels, and I don't think they want to, because Daniel Brunskill essentially graduated past that role, right?
Right.
Rand Carthon went to Tennessee and was like, look, dude, you're good. I don't know why the Niners are giving you the shaft over there in San Francisco. Come over here. I'll give you a multi-year deal. Cool. So the Niners, they can't have Daniel Brunskill be their safety net anymore, so they got another one. That's the way I look at it. It doesn't necessarily mean that Spencer Burford is just going to move to right tackle, because I think ever since they drafted him, just like with Zakelj, they said he's a center. With Burford, they said he's a guard.
Right.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true.
And it's like he played tackle in college, but he went to UTSA. Like, how many NFL pass rushers did he really face in college?
Fair.
A couple, Yeah.
A
couple.
To me, I think it's interesting when you talk about the right tackle position, because Burford, I projected, could be a solid right tackle in the NFL.
He's got the frame for it. He's got the length.
Exactly.
He's got the, yeah.
But
he looks like one.
Projection versus reality. And right now, Burford is raw. He's still a guy who's got to improve. I think his rookie year, a lot of people say it's impressive because he was a rookie that started on a championship caliber team. To me, I didn't think it was necessarily impressive in the fact, like, when I look at overall in his play, but I liked what I saw from him as a rookie. I thought it was good, but I still thought it was average level guard play in the NFL. I think Burford's got a chance to grow, and I think that that's where I'd be interested to see if he moves to right tackle just to try it out, but I wonder what exactly goes on.
I mean, he'd be better at the position than Jalen Moore, but
That's
I do
true.
feel that Burford was the weakest link on the offensive line last year. I thought he was worse than McGlinchey.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. I do think that that's
not
fair.
that he was bad. He was solid. I thought Burford was solid.
Yeah, I do think that's fair. And I mean, again, when we say the weakest link, this was a top 10 unit last year in terms of advanced metrics. This was a top 10 unit. So it's not like when you're saying this is the weakest link, this guy can't play football. It's just when you're building championship caliber teams, you want the best trench play as possible. And so when you talk about the offensive line, you want it to be as high to the top as it can be, really.
Because I mean, this team, again, it's not about like, can they win 13 games? Yeah, we know they can win 13 games. It's like, can they win the Super Bowl? Like, you have to look at those specific matchups with the best teams in the league, and you know those teams have Chris Jones, like some very dominant defensive lineman, and all it takes is one weakness, one weak link, and all of a sudden you get the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl where who was the right who was the right guard on that freaking team? It was Ben Garland and Mike Person.
Oh, in 2019?
Mike Person just getting blown up by Chris Jones every play. Like, well, at least, but it graded out well in the regular season. Like, yeah, but you saw this coming. You knew it wasn't good enough.
Right. And funny
But
enough,
the thing about Feliciano, hey, if Burford doesn't take that step and he's just not particularly great, Feliciano is a nice run blocker. Like, the Niners couldn't run right to save their lives last year. So maybe Feliciano actually starts at right guard and he's an improvement. I wouldn't rule that out.
One thing I will say on the right, on this right side of the offensive line, 3 years, right? 2019, 2021, 2022. In the playoffs, that has been the one area where they've struggled, and it's costed them in a way. Exactly. And so
you can't have half an offensive line. I feel like real contenders will feast on that in close games down the stretch. Or you're not even. I mean, the Eagles feasted on it all game. So I think I don't understand why the Niners don't finish this. They've had half an offensive line for like the whole time Kyle's been here. When Harbaugh was here, they had a full offensive line.
Right.
It was a priority with a lot of the same scouts that are here right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Very fair. Very fair.
But again, go back and look at Mike Shanahan's offensive lines in Denver. It was the same kind of deal, like a lot of 6th and 5th round picks, and that was part of his. It's like, well, I'm just running outside zone. I don't need the best offensive lineman. Game changed.
Yeah, it has. It has. And I mean, it's certainly important to find scheme fits. I do think that this scheme is very valuable, but also you need to find the talent to come with the scheme fit, obviously. Right. And so that's there.